All right, y'all. We got some unfortunate news. Julius Randle is out for the rest of the season. This is pretty shitty news if you're a New York Knicks fan. So sorry in advance if that's the case. So basically, at the end of January, Julius Randle dislocated his, I think it was his right shoulder or whatever, so his non-shooting shoulder, and he's basically been out ever since. They were kind of thinking, hey, we're gonna get him along with Mitchell Robinson, who's been out for a while, and he actually just recently came back. We're gonna get them back in time for the playoffs, but it doesn't look like that's gonna happen now. I'm not a doctor, so I won't speculate on like what actually happened and everything, but who knows, right? Apparently it's worse now, and they've got to actually go in and cut the dude up, and we wish him a speedy recovery. What does this mean for the New York Knicks, though? The Knicks were real buyers at this deadline. I'm sure you guys all remember that, bringing in players like Alec Burks, right? And they brought in like Bojan, guys like that, and we were like, wow, this is an incredibly deep New York Knicks team, and we are like, if they can get everybody back together, which we presumed that they would, they've got two all-star caliber players in Brunson and Randall, like all NBA type players, really. Like, okay, so we've got that checked off. Like, you've got role players on role players. Dante DiVincenzo's playing out of his mind right now. OG Anunoby, when he's on the court, is great defensively and plays awesome with DiVincenzo. The offensive rebounding of this team is insane. Like, even without Mitchell Robinson, Hartenstein and Achua were doing great, and Achua can go out and even guard perimeter guys. Like, you're like, wow, this is awesome. Like, this team could actually be a title contender. But now we have to ask the question, with Julius Randle down, what is kind of the cap for this New York Knicks team? For those curious, the Knicks are currently in the 5 seed. They're only half a game back from Orlando. They've got a little bit of a lead, though, on these like 6-7 teams here, so maybe that'll be safe for the rest of the season. It's hard to say. The Knicks haven't been great as of late. They've lost the last 3, but they've also been winning some games here and there as well. They were just on a nice little kind of like win streak, but it's hard to say, right? I mean, this team's been playing decently without Randle, not as good as when he was there, but this is still a good basketball team. Looking at Julius Randle specifically, though, having another great season. Last year, he was obviously All-NBA third team. Getting you 24 points a game. Some of the efficiencies are dropping in terms of like 3-point shot and stuff like that. But otherwise, like another phenomenal basketball season for Julius Randle. He's a little more unique of a player. He's kind of one of those like few really ISO heavy, I want to operate in the mid-range type dudes that are left kind of Carmelo Anthony-esque, if you will, where it's a lot of like, hey, like I'm going to get a guy on my back on the right side of the court. I'm going to back him down a little bit. I'm going to hit him with like some isolation moves or something and blow by him and use my strength, things like that. He could also like take the ball off the dribble, take the ball off the court. He could be a hub if he needed to. He did a lot of things for the New York Knicks, and it's such a shame that he's going down. But the good news is, and I don't want to call it good news, the saving grace is that what we said at the beginning of this video of the Knicks being very deep, like that is true, and those players are proving to be valuable assets. Well, for the most part, at least. So let's take a look at this team post All-Star break, right? And the first thing I'm going to drag you guys over to is just general plus minus here. And unfortunately, the new players haven't been doing too well. Bojan and Alec Burks have been struggling quite a bit. You're still getting decent 3-point shooting out of Bojan, but you would hope for more than 10 points a game. This is a guy that pretty reliably, if you put him on a basketball court for a decent amount of time, that he's going to get you 20 points. So the fit hasn't quite been there, and Alec Burks hasn't really been able to hit the side of a barn right now, so he's only getting you about 6 points a game. And maybe that's because there's other ball handlers on this team, whether it be Miles McBride or Jalen Brunson, who, maybe Alec Burks just really likes to have the ball that much more, because he did run more of a point guard role in Detroit at times. So maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe the off-ball role isn't really working for him, even though historically he's been solid at that. But who knows? Maybe it's just a bad streak. That could also be true. Precious Achua also struggling a little bit. They'll throw him out there and like defensively, like he's doing his thing. He's fighting hard. He's getting rebounds and everything, right? Like he's doing the defensive end fine. Offensively, he's been struggling a little bit to find his role, and I think it's going to help that Mitchell Robinson's back. He'll kind of have a decreased role now, which is helpful. I'll be curious actually with Randle down where Achua kind of fits in, because with Mitch Rob being in the game, and I haven't watched a Knicks game since Mitch Rob came back, so I haven't honestly even looked at what those rotations look like yet. But when you have Mitch Rob and Hartenstein, like, does it really make sense to also have Achua on the court? I don't know, because those two dudes really just do everything that he does and better. Who has been good for this New York Knicks team, though, since the All-Star break? OG Anunoby has been awesome, right? He's always out there doing his thing. Honestly, the scoring, like, still hasn't quite figured itself out, along with the 3-point shooting. Like, even the corner threes haven't really translated, like, that well since joining the Knicks. So I don't know. I'd like to imagine that it'll get itself figured out. Like I said, I love the pairing of him and DiVincenzo. I just feel like Anunoby's such a good off-ball player, and DiVincenzo's just a really smart basketball player. He can find him in those opportunities when people are closing him out really hard, and then he can go and attack from there. So, I don't know. I really like that combination. Hartenstein's been amazing. Like, even with Mitch Robb down, they, like, didn't fall off in terms of offensive rebounding because Hartenstein's been just that awesome. Josh Hart's been contributing a ton. Miles McBride, who got the extension this year, that I was kind of like, I just haven't seen enough of this guy play. I'm kind of wondering why. Like, been a nice little player for them. Like, can't complain about it at all. He's been shooting the shit out of the basketball. So hey, shout out Miles McBride, man. I was not familiar with your game enough. And then DiVincenzo, it feels like every other game right now he's going off for 30 some points because he is just chucking from three. And man, he's hitting it. I mean, what are we taking for? Yeah, 12 3-point attempts a game, shooting 37%. That is absolutely ludicrous. Like, that is crazy. But yeah, no, so like, there's good things going on this team. They need to figure out the right combination of these dudes to try to find some playoff success. So I'm looking at some lineup data here and stuff, and like I just highlighted the ones that like Randle's involved in. Obviously, their best lineup has Randle involved. Quentin Grimes was one that's not on the team anymore, so you can't go to that. So now your best lineup, which has actually played quite a bit of minutes together, is Brunson with Miles McBride, so 2 ball handlers, staying small then with DiVincenzo and Josh Hart at the 4, which Josh Hart's a really, really good rebounder for his size and everything, but that's kind of an interesting one. With then Hartenstein, I'm sure you could sub in Mitch Robb or Hartenstein, and it probably works the same way. Well, maybe not, because Hartenstein works as like a hub sometimes too, so if you have all those shooters and everything around him and those ball handlers, maybe that's why the lineup works so well. That's kind of interesting. But after that, like, what lineup are you going to? The Jalen Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart, Anunoby, Hartenstein lineup is interesting. That's a pretty typical starting lineup. Again, sub Mitchell Robinson in for Hartenstein. You kind of get the same thing. But you're going to have a lot of shooting. You're going to have a lot of rebounding. And you've got scorers at the wing. You just haven't unlocked them yet in Anunoby, Bogdanovich, and Burks. So, like, how are you going to get that out of them? I don't know. Tibbs is usually pretty good at figuring that stuff out. But you have a ton of options. You just have to figure out who's hot, and you just got to ride them. But man, this team could still do some damage in the playoffs. Like, I really think that they could. Like, let's say they play like the Orlando Magic right away, like they're slotted 2 right now. That's an interesting series at the very least. Like, you could just completely out offensive rebound that team. You could just completely outshoot that team. We all know that nobody on Orlando can shoot. Like, you're not going down in the first round like easily at all. Like, even if you go up against like the Cavs or something, like, I don't think you're like out of that series at all. You get into the Bucks and Celtics, I think it becomes a little bit more difficult because Julius Randle was just going to be that important to deal with their level of star power. But I don't know, like the first 2 rounds, you might be able to do something, depending on where you're seated. This might be a situation, honestly, where they'd rather have like a 6 seed than like a 4 or 5 or something like that, just because like you don't want to play Boston. But nobody's gonna do that. They're gonna try to win games. But yeah, you guys let me know if you're a Knicks fan, which I know there's plenty of you. What does this mean for you guys? Like, I'm really sorry to see that this happened. I like watching Julius Randle play basketball and everything. It's just, it might not be the New York Knicks, man. It just might not be their thing to go and be contenders. I don't know, but we're going to ride this season out, see what happens, and you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe as well. I'm on my way to 1,000, so appreciate all the love as always, and we'll talk to you guys later.